and welcome to another Biddle on Saturday night. Can we get a confirmation on the chat for the audio, please? How's everybody doing?
Howdy. Better than last week.
So we were late a few minutes, and I'm going to blame that on Scott because he pointed out a few errors on the webpage, so I have to fix them. But I figured Deb made a good point to probably wait until after the stream to fix them. So I'm just going to blame Scott. All right, there you go.
Sound is good, Rocco, apparently. Sound is good.
All right, way to go. At least we can start with clean audio. All right, I hate to do this because I, really fear what's coming here. But we had a distro challenge this week. And it was Rosa OS. And did anybody, before we start, did anybody find it positive? Nate? Anybody? Nate?
Yes, actually, I thought it was great. I enjoyed it.
All right, let's start with you then, Nate.
Okay, I'll have to send you the link a little bit later for my article. It's
fine.
There's some format stuff problems. So there's a lot of things I liked about it. There's some things I didn't like about it. So I'll quickly hit the things I didn't like about it so I can end on a positive note.
No, I think you should stretch it out because there may not be much more positive after you're done.
All right,
savage.
Well, it's not gonna hurt my feelings any. So a little background. I started on Mandrake back in 2002, and then I was full-time Linux 2003. So I was kind of between early days. I was between GNOME and KDE, and even GNOME back then wasn't very good. So I've been with KDE ever since. And what I liked about Mandrake was it was a good implementation of KDE. So going through the installation of Rosa, I wasn't sure if it was going to be because it's a fork of Mandrake or Mandriva as it was called later. And so I was going through the installation process, and it installed fine. Everything was pretty straightforward. There's only really one strange thing on the install. It was after I said to use the entire partition, it did that and then forced it into a reboot, saying it had to reboot to be able to further install it. And I thought that was very strange. But anyway, so I had to re-go through the entire install back to the partition point, and then everything from there installed fine. What I liked about the installation process was it actually made you stop down and put in the root password first. Well, I don't know if I liked it or not, but I thought it was interesting. It made you stop down and do a root password before you even did your user password, which is kind of the reverse of what I'm used to if they even ask you for a root password. Presumably it found my swap space okay. And also I liked how it gave you a separate spot to designate the host name. There are some installers that kind of hide where to put in the host name. Doesn't matter who, but I don't care for that. So it started with KDE Plasma version 5.10, the one I installed. I downloaded version 5. And then after doing a series of updates, which took a long time, it actually took you to 5.14.4. So it actually was a modern, the latest or near the latest KDE Plasma. Now, what I don't understand is why they haven't respun a new ISO, but, whatever. So the kind of, in summation, it looks like a clashing of styles between everywhere from 2006 to now, because they didn't change a lot of the old Mandrake icons. They're all it's kind of a lot of the same. And so that combined with Breeze, so you have the soft looking icons with the more sharp looking monochromatic icons. I thought it was a clashing of styles, which is a huge contrast to something like Pop OS or Elementary OS, where they really take the time to ensure that it is a visually very cohesive experience. So it felt a little more, thrown together from that perspective. But actually using it, the update process was great. It actually, I didn't have to punch in my password like you do with all those Debian-based distros, which that was nice. But It actually was very solid. I also installed LXQT on another machine just to see how that went. It also actually is actually not to be disparaging against anybody, but I thought it was a better LXQT than Lubuntu.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's Simon Quigley when you need him?
Yeah.
He'll pop up.
So the reason is the network manager was a better network manager than what they have on Lubuntu. From my perspective, better for me, I should say. And actually it was really fast. I mean, it actually performed really well. And so, I mean, from that perspective, I thought it was actually pretty decent. I mean, now, would I switch from OpenSUSE to Rosa? Not a chance. But if OpenSUSE disappeared tomorrow, would I use Rosa? Not a chance. But it was all right. You know, I mean, it worked fine. I like that it was RPM. Everything seemed very efficient. I mean, the out of the gate, it only had was using like 400 some odd meg. So I mean, that was really, I mean, technically speaking, it wasn't bad at all. It just felt a little ad hoc. But I mean, you know, it was a good start, I think. You know, I mean, I think like for someone who doesn't care, I don't think they would care either, you know. But so that's my take on it. I give it at least one thumb up, you know. It's not bad.
One thumb up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's better than nothing.
No thumbs down, just one thumb up. The other hand's on vacation. So
okay, so maybe it was just me, but I downloaded all three. I only got to try Plasma and then their older KDE version. I tried the older KDE version, which brought back memories of old days of KDE. But I installed, or I did a virtual box for the Plasma one. I mean, I looked at what I had put in a virtual box, and then I looked at English Bob's video on Rosa, and it looked completely different. So I don't know if I did something wrong, but the Plasma version, the regular Plasma version, was using, I think, 5.13. Was it 5.10?
Yep, 5.10 out of the gate.
Oh yeah, you're right, because it wasn't up to the LTS yet. Yep, you're right.
It would upgrade to the 5.14.
Right. So, but it looked like it didn't. To me, it didn't even use the menus that usually come with Plasma. So I don't know if mine was just a goofy install or what.
Well, Plasma gives you 3 different menu options right out of the gate, and they chose the cascading pop-ups, which is actually the one that I prefer over the others. So, you know, for what that's worth.
Yeah. All right, Zeb, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I'd like to start off with an apology for suggesting we all try Rosa last week. It really didn't turn out anywhere near as I remembered it to be. But thankfully, I think Colin had a similar experience when 9 months ago, it was actually a pretty good distribution and it worked really well. But this time round, I installed the LXQT, and I won't even begin to go into the list of things that went wrong. And I did my usual next, and I thought, no, hang on, this is a challenge, so we've got to do it properly here. So I then put the KDE Plasma version on, and I must admit, I had a much better experience with that. And I remember it being much more like Rosa was on the old LXQT version that I tried. So all in all, it wasn't a raving success. And the only reason why I would never use it as a day-to-day driver is because it doesn't have NVIDIA NVENC installed by default for some obscure reason. You have to go in and go through all that headache of what we used to do before 1804 on Ubuntu. So there was no way I was going to work that out, how to do that on an RPM-based version. But the KDE version I could have lived with if it had NVENC. But other than that, really sorry. I won't be suggesting Rosa again for a long time. So apologies, group. Hey, unlike Dask Geek, I'm here this week to take.
Wow. You know, I talked to him earlier, and he said he was going to be here, so he's Mr. Layman out.
That's why we do these challenges, though, right?
Yep. Why we do them. Thomas, What'd you think of Rosa?
So I tried the plasma version, and I got to try it for all of 5 minutes because, first off, me and plasma never get along. So I tried it for all of 5 minutes. I'm like, you know what? I'm not liking these cascading menus. These are weird. I know I can change them, but I just don't want to dig through the menus to find it. Next.
All you have to do is right click and say alternatives, and then you have 3 options. You can get the goofy dashboard one that like GNOME uses, or you can use like another more Windows 7-y looking.
A Whisker 7 type thing, yeah.
I know I could have fixed it, but I was too busy with Rosa OS stuff this week, which I can talk about later, to deal with that. So, yeah.
Excuses.
Oh, shush. Shush.
Okay, all right. Peter, you're up.
Okay, I started off actually quite positive. By the way, as Zeb and I noticed, there was on the website, they had their own USB writer. So from the get-go, I used that, and I installed using the Rosa USB writer, and it seemed to work fine. I used LXQT. Everything was going great. As everyone here has probably noticed, there was a lot of upgrades because the ISO was quite old. But LXQT worked great. I enjoyed using it. I tested installing a few programs, running a few programs. I liked it. I also noticed that they had Enlightenment as a meta package. So I installed that too and rebooted, and Enlightenment worked great. I thought, okay, I'm liking this. Both installs were on the same profile were good. And then there was another set of updates, and then it just broke it because I could no longer get onto the internet. And by the way, a shout out to good teamwork. Michael Vasher's here. He really helped me. I was doing a ping to Google, google.com, and it's failing. He said, try doing 1111. And that worked. So therefore, it was a DNS error. Huh? But at that point, and I had other things going on too, I decided to call it a day and say next. Because I wasn't going to go and try fixing DNS errors.
All right. Barbara.
Okay. I didn't try it. I went on the webpage and I looked and saw that, first of all, it was using 4.9 kernel. And I thought, because I had a couple tweaky things with that kernel before. And second, it was the release date was December 2017, which me would not think that, oh, there have been lots and lots of updates since. I think the average person would look at that and say, maybe they're not supporting it anymore, especially with the older kernel and the fact that it was still, the release date was December 2017. So those were, to me, big red flags, so I didn't install it.
Okay. Fair enough. Colin?
You're muted, mate.
I'm the same as Barb. Well, after I installed LXQT twice, the first time I installed it, I did some updates. Everything was fine. Second wave of updates came through, broke my internet, had no Wi-Fi. Thought something might have done something wrong, so I reinstalled it again. And by the way, it took about an hour or two for updates to come through. It was really slow, and that's on LXQT. So, yeah, and then I went to the website, clicked on their news, and the last lot of news they've had was Rosa R10 LXQT is here, 26th of December 2017. And I thought that was a bit strange because now that's starting to look a little bit like the way Solus was, which they hadn't updated for a while. So all those updates, I know Solus is having some issues as well in that respect. So I gave LXQT another go, same deal, tried a couple of different ways of updating instead of restarting or restarting, whatever. Still broke my Wi-Fi. So I thought I'll give Plasma a go. Install Plasma. Updates took 4 hours.
Wow.
4 hours. I just
Maybe
read
you
that
should get
thing's-
better internet.
Yeah. Well, no, the internet's working fine. I think it's just the updates. It was ridiculous, and I just thought, I went back to the website again, looked at their website. Yep, 2017 and all that. So I don't know whether they're maintaining it or whether they've just left it go. They're working on a new one. I don't know.
You need to get a better treadmill for that kangaroo, mate.
Yeah. So yeah, and then after all those updates, I patiently waited 4 hours, and also on Plasma, my Wi-Fi broke. I had no Wi-Fi. I said, "That's it. I've had enough." So yeah, I gave up on that one. It looked all right. The desktop looked all right and everything. It looked nice and all, but I didn't really. I lost interest to go searching around desktop and that. So
yeah,
maybe we were running updates at the same time, and I kind of stole the bandwidth from you. Sorry about that.
Well, all I did was basically do updates on Rosa. So just I got to the point where that was enough.
Well, the packets get stuck at the border.
We finally found a distro that Colin didn't enjoy. All right, Michael, you are up, sir. Did you try Rosa?
I only messed around with it in a VM for a little bit. I was seeing some of the early problems Zeb was having, and between that and just wanting to just kind of keep my system a little bit more stable, I did bork my iGrub somehow, but later in the week. But anyway, I just messed around with a VM. I mean, it wasn't my style either. I didn't really care for the default look. I'm sure I could have fixed all that, but to me, it just wasn't. And I looked at both the KDE and the LXQT, and I had them. I thought they were looking the same, but maybe there was just something weird about my VM. But anyway.
No, I think there was something weird about Rosa.
Okay, fair enough. And it just wasn't for me, and I was seeing the problems. I'm like, yeah, I'll just do VM this week.
Yeah. All right, Big Pod, did you try it?
Can't hear you, my friend.
Hold on. You must be muted. No, you're not muted.
Okay, yeah, I had muted microphone on the cable.
Good man.
I tried it out in a VM. First of all, the release date kinda had me didn't want to try it on hardware, and I looked at it as a total newcomer, basically first-time users. So, and applications that were installed, I didn't like them. First thing that actually bothered me much was that they didn't have full LibreOffice suite installed, just Writer and another application, which seemed weird. And updates were total crap. 3 times installation. I really wanted to check it out.
Yeah.
And on our side, if you look at it as who use Linux for quite some time, same problem with LibreOffice, and otherwise I wouldn't use it for. If it would be less Linux distro, I wouldn't use it.
Wow. Wow. See what I meant, Nate, when I said you might need to go on a little further?
Well, now I feel like I am obligated to defend it a little bit. I thought the upgrades were great. Totally smooth, not a problem.
Colin would disagree with you, just saying.
I think several other people would.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Tyler, did you try Rosa?
No, I was still spending most of my week recovering. I would get home from work, have some NyQuil, and then pass out. So
nice.
That sounds better than using Rosa.
So wrong.
Sorry about that. No, that was a cheap shot. Sorry.
Scott, give me some good news about Rosa. Did you try it?
Actually, I missed last week because I've been on the road for 10 days, and I just got back this morning. So I didn't get a chance to look at it at all, other than the webpage. However, I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night. No, I did not embark on the Russian OS adventure, a.k.a. Rosa. Sorry about that.
It's all good, brother. It's all good. Paul, did you get to try it?
No, I tried all 3 versions, and I couldn't get it run it on any of my machines.
Wow. Wait, you couldn't get it installed, or you couldn't get it running?
Either it would just go to a shell, say,
command prompt. Yeah.
That's all I know how to do is just install it from like a
right.
regular, I don't know, the command prompt.
Well, that's never good when it does that. So, Shambles, welcome back.
There we go. There's my mute button.
There you go. What's going on?
Not too much. I didn't make it too far into Rosa. I threw it on an old laptop. I tried the plasma version, but after I ran into some issues on Rosa, I had recently also installed Kubuntu on all my other computers, so I just went back to using Kubuntu and was able to work. So
he said next.
That'll be a pass on Rosa. That's okay.
All right. Matt, I know that you tried Rosa and you loved it, didn't you?
You're muted, mate.
He was getting the swear words out.
Yeah.
Come on, I'm not that bad. Jeez.
Sometimes.
How bad are you?
Only on my own content. No, I did not try Rosa. I spent most of my week trying to get the 2.1 Mac Pro that I have to actually run an actual OS. So that was interesting.
Wow. Okay, Chicken, you are up.
I'm gonna try and be super nice about this.
Let's do that. Let's have some positivity here.
If Enso was the dumpster fire,
this can't be good where this is going.
These are the target names afterwards.
Wow.
Okay, so in all reality, there are some positives to it. I can't think of any, but it exists. Therefore, somebody wanted it. I would go Fedora KDE. I would go OpenSUSE KDE. But this, I don't know who they're targeting with this at all. And the out-of-date ISO image took me forever to actually boot. I had to actually manually change and re-roll an ISO because I couldn't load it because it was so old.
Well, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that Rosa was targeted towards businesses.
Okay, that would super explain it. I don't know what kind of crazy businesses they're targeting, but
if I remember correctly, reading on their website, I'm pretty sure it was started targeting businesses.
Once I had it up and running, it worked. I didn't have stability issues. I didn't see any reason to kind of use like this weird off the hook RPM distro. I struggled to find some good things.
I can help you out with that.
Uh-oh.
So they have KPPP installed by default. So if you have a modem, like a 56K modem and a landline, you can use it right out of the gate. There we go.
Wow. Look at that.
Do they tell if that's sarcasm?
That is right up your alley.
I'm sure that there's a lot of people with that sort of technology going around today.
I was going to say, Colin, is that your internet?
Yeah, it's broadband, but it goes that way.
But Nate, do they have Twain print drivers? Come on.
Well, that would be truly meant for all Australians who have the 56K modems.
For me, the way I kind of saw it is, remember how people used to always talk about how terrible the RPM world was back in the days? Like, I feel like they're still in that phase. I think that's the problem, is it just seemed to be stuck there. It didn't feel like it belonged in this year at all.
I don't think you were old enough to be around for those bad RPM days.
I watched the documentaries.
No idea, my friend.
No, I didn't experience it personally, but this definitely reminded me of the videos that I watched. And I tried some really old things because I wasn't around to actually experience it firsthand. And there were some similarities.
Well, Dan Simmons won't be here tonight, but he has something going on with his family. But he did want me to pass along that, what's this say? At the first glance, you wonder if the project is dead. The ISO is 2 years old. Forum has a bad certificate. Blog posts are old. After 3 rounds of updates, I realized someone must still be maintaining the repos, so it can't be totally dead. He did manage to keep his LXQT installed going all week, more than I can say for you guys.
I still have my LXQT going.
So, well, there you go. Competing with you, Nate. The repos, he said, seemed a little slow, which goes to you, Colin, of your updates. And the software seemed limited. All in all, it doesn't seem like the best distro for an LXQT representation.
I did find it interesting, though, on their website that it was approved by their General Army for use in their military, which means I'm no longer worried about the Russians. But I thought that was kind of odd to see that there.
Oh, my God.
Great.
Oh, jeez.
So,
where's your positive note to finish on, Rocco?
Yeah. So it's 9:28. I think that was the fastest challenge we've ever done.
We're on record. Let's see if we can beat it next week, guys.
Wow. That was great.
Well, I certainly won't be making any suggestions for this week. You'll be happy to know. You guys can pick one.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we're going to have to think of a distro for next week.
Something good.
And the only thing that I saw that released this week was Parrot OS, and we're not going to try that.
No.
We saw a good
one. Before anyway.
We could.
Parrot.
We
already did it once, didn't we?
I'm pretty sure we did because you actually enjoyed it, Barbara.
I was using it at the time, and I think I had mentioned it.
I must not have tried it. Was I absent that week?
I don't know. Were you?
I don't remember trying Parrot OS. But anyway,
I don't know. Maybe it was just Barbara who tried it. But I know that it was like quite an astounding because it was like, I installed it and I used it. It's great. And I thought, wow, Barbara's installed another distro.
Yeah, I remember Barb installing it actually, but I don't think we did it as a challenge, though. I'm pretty sure.
No, we did. But I had already installed it before it was a challenge. That was part of it, I think, because I had mentioned it on the group,
right.
Telegram.
Yeah, Wendy had a good point. We need to hear a big group next.
Yeah.
1, 2.
Next.
You guys got to give it a few seconds for Colin's in.
Sorry, that wasn't great. That wasn't one of our better ones. And I don't ever like to you don't want to trash a distro of any kind, really, because there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. Yeah. But it doesn't seem like there's so much hard work going on behind the scenes with this one.
I would like to point out that the fact that they are maintaining any sort of KDE desktop is a feat within itself, because if any of you guys have actually tried maintaining KDE packages, it's really, really awful.
No,
sorry, Zeb.
No, go on, carry on. I was going to say I've just never tried maintaining anything. It's bad enough trying to get this stuff installed and working. So I don't do the technical stuff at all.
That's why I didn't want to be too harsh, but the fact that they've left it so long for the ISO to be respun, I think has got to be something that's definitely going to cause issues. For
to point out that I was able to spin my own ISO of it to accommodate for their really old jank kernel version says enough that they could do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Aris in chat said that Mr. Jiffy paid a super chat 1 week for the Parrot OS to be a challenge, but we never accepted it as a challenge. But I think, Barbara, you said you were going to try it anyway.
I had tried it and I liked it.
Yeah.
But then it was just, I always go back to Ubuntu Mate.
Go ahead.
Isn't that
Rocco?
No, I was just going to say that just to back up a little bit, at least the Rosa website has a phone number on there. We can all contribute to the upgrading and reconfiguring of the OS for them.
Peter, what were you going to say?
Okay, so last week we mentioned, actually the debate was over Rosa or Magia. And I'm looking at the Magia website right now, and it does say get involved in the next version, test Magia 7 Beta 1. So they're actually asking for testers.
Well, I don't know. What do you guys think? You want to do a beta testing?
Yeah, I don't mind doing betas or whatever it is. Testing is good.
Can't be any worse than those.
That's not a good example, Zeb.
Let me say again, 6.1 was updated in October, so they're very up to date. So version 7 should be quite complete.
I also feel that we should be obliged to do Parrot if someone has actually contributed to a super chat as well.
Yeah, that was Mr. Jiffy who did that.
Yeah, that's a fair call, I think, as well. So whether it's this week or next week, but I think we should do that. I agree. I don't know much about Parrot though.
It's got a nice. It's got, if you like. First of all, it uses the Mate desktop. So, but the way they've done it, the colors, everything, and it's smooth.
Tell us all about it,
works. Huh?
Yeah, but isn't Parrot designed to be a penetrating?
Yeah.
No, they've got three different versions. They have one that's for pen testing. They have one that's just more secure for average users, for normal users, or people who are more concerned about security and so on. And then they have one for like 32-bit.
So what is the security advantage to trying the one that you talk about being more secure than, say, Ubuntu Mate? Do you know what they do differently to make
they
it secure?
use for instance, they provide the equivalent of a VPN. I think it goes through Tor.
Okay.
And they have certain released versions which, you know, I don't know if they've tightened the security on them or whatever, but that's really basically the whole idea of it.
One of
the main one, which is the one for penetration testing.
One of the key things about it being more secure is not specifically in reference to like other systems, but in reference to
your own
their
system
pen testing one, because their pen testing distro by default is super unsecure because everything's wide open for you to play with.
Right.
So this is like, it's actually sane because the other one is not.
Right.
You would not want to use, and they even tell you on their website not to use the pen testing one as your daily driver.
Yeah.
Because of the security issues on it. Because it is wide open.
Oh, that's a cool backlit keyboard there, Dark One.
and what they're also saying is that they supply you with a complete arsenal of security tools right in your pocket. So they give you everything you need to play with to harden your system as much as you want to. But if you just install it and use it as a general Ubuntu-based OS, it's pretty good.
All right.
Hang on, no, I'm not going to say that because I thought
Debian.
So
Debian.
Let's have a vote: Parrot or Magia.
Parrot
or Elementary OS.
Wow.
We already did that.
I've already got that running.
There's always Netrunner as an option.
Zeb, what do you vote for?
I go for Parrot.
Yep. Thomas?
Parrot.
Peter?
Okay, I'm going to go for Parrot, actually. Now I know it's for regular users, too.
Barbara?
Parrot.
Colin?
Parrot.
Do we need to go any further?
Does
anybody want to do Magia? We'll just say that.
They can do it the following week.
We'll do it later. Okay. All right. So Parrot OS will be the next distro challenge for next week.
Does it matter if we pick KDE or Mate?
It doesn't matter to me. No.
No, whatever. I thought they only had. Maybe they've changed it since.
If you want to even use the penetrating one, I don't care.
I'm gonna try
that's
that.
Fine. Or if you want to use just the regular one, that's fine. I don't care which one you use.
Yeah,
or even if you have you want to try it on 32-bit because
they've got new ones out there, Barbara. They've got Mate and they've got Plasma.
Okay, because they had that's new since the last time I played around with it.
Cool. Sounds good.
Dave's in the house. Dave. Come on. I was hoping he'd have some good words for Rosa.
I'm actually surprised Dave's around because didn't Arch just have a major...
Wow. He said
a major
Dave's
mess
machine
up.
just blew up.
I think Manjaro, I think.
Yeah, because I
really,
was...
what happened?
Do you remember we tried Antec Deepin a while back? Yeah. Well, he's just spun up another ISO and literally 20 minutes after I installed it, Deepin did an update, so I updated, and he went, no, we was on Discord, and it was like, no, whatever you do, don't reboot. They've messed up. So I had to wait 24 hours before I could reboot my machine, and they issued a new...
Wow.
They got it fixed pretty quick, but I don't know whether it was a Deepin DDE error, as in the desktop, or It was a general Arch one, but it was a lot of fun. I actually didn't reboot my machine for 24 hours, which is really unusual for me.
Error in the Deepin mainline repos running on top of Deepin OS, so I think it was probably an Arch repository issue.
Right, gotcha. Anyway, before we move on, I'd like to also issue another apology to the group. I listened back last week, and in my closing notes, it was, if you watch it again, just look at Alan Pope. His face was a picture when I actually said, quote unquote, "You lot didn't listen to me." And what I actually meant to say was I probably didn't articulate myself well enough when I was trying to tell you about Elementary OS, because it has another fanboy. I'm doing the Jason challenge, and it's awesome. This thing truly rocks, and that's
look at the smile on Chicken's face.
He has
That's
another
the message that I meant to get across last week. Not that you didn't listen to me, but I didn't articulate myself. So apologies, Alan. And you're not here this week, mate, so I don't know if I'm making any foo bars, but just go back and watch those final comments and have a look at Alan's face when I make that statement. It's classic. It's absolutely brilliant. So
Yeah.
my apologies, people. You do listen. I just didn't articulate it properly.
No worries, Zeb. No worries.
Well, I think Elementary can send some thank yous to Rosa, because I went the Elementary way during the week once Rosa.
Thank
so
you,
I thought,
Colin.
I thought I would take up the challenge as well. I joined their Telegram group as well, but I haven't really got a lot to say. But yeah, I actually am impressed with the way they've fixed quite a few things, the printers and the issues a lot of the issues we had during the testing has pretty much been fixed. So yeah, well done to the Elementary team for that anyway, I must say.
Yep,
And it's running quite well.
Definitely think they have updated a lot of stuff, like the little problems you were having when you first installed Juno. I know for me anyway, only one issue left is the Firefox click issue, Chicken.
You know what, buddy? All right. Here we
go. So for those of you that don't know, I don't know if it happens to everybody, but I know it happens to at least 3 or 4 people. I've confirmed that. All right. So it's not just me this time. But if you're using Firefox and you try to right click on a link or highlighted text, the context menu comes up, but it immediately left clicks whatever the mouse is highlighted, hovering over at that time. So
I remember you mentioning this in another distro, but it wasn't in Firefox specifically. It was in the system, and it was. Do you remember what that was? You were mentioning.
I don't remember.
Okay, because I was like, I wonder if it's connected.
Well, I booted into Elementary, and everything was great. And like I said, they did fix a lot of things. It's just if Firefox is my main browser at the moment, and I can't not have a right click. Michael, didn't you have the same problem?
Yeah, I've got exactly the same problem, but it's not just Firefox.
Really?
What do you mean it wasn't just Firefox?
I did find a workaround, but it's really odd.
What was the workaround?
You have to hold right click.
Yes, I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Right.
Were you experiencing?
So wrong. Yeah.
Zeb, what do you mean it wasn't just Firefox?
Well, it happens to me as well when I right mouse click something in the file manager.
Oh.
If I right mouse click and let go, bosh, it's opened up, and I'm thinking I didn't want to do that. I want the menu. So, like Michael says, you have to right mouse click and hold, then move your mouse down to where you want it, and then you let go.
And you're doing this on the desktop, right?
So that again,
you're doing this on the desktop, right?
In File Manager.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like on the desktop computer with like a mouse.
Yeah.
So it's not a touchpad issue.
No, it's not a touchpad.
Yes, but they're in the Elementary user group, or maybe it wasn't the Elementary user group. It was the Elementary challenge group. There was people that happened on the trackpad. That same thing.
Yeah, I did notice that.
So it's not just a mouse issue. It is.
I wonder if it's like an X input issue that they might be having.
Maybe.
And the issue is like, where do you even start to report that? Like, do you blame Firefox for that? Do you blame Elementary for that? I mean, not blame, but I mean,
a bug on the Elementary OS GitHub. Like,
well, I didn't want to sound like a complete idiot. That
we'll just move it where it needs to go.
I think it has to be an Elementary issue because it doesn't happen on any other distro.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue happening in Elementary.
Yeah.
So but
Maybe
it's
a
just
config of X input.
narrowing it down to where it's happening, because if it might be a different issue that's happening in Firefox than what somebody mentioned in the file manager, because that what they were mentioning is slightly different. And because I know sometimes, especially with things like browsers, they use like a different system of communicating. Like Chrome does its own kind of window management system, even though it doesn't need to. So depending on what Firefox is doing and how it's speaking to the rest of the desktop, kind of narrowing down which layer that's causing this is pretty...
So I also noticed that the Jason challenge, he's going to put out another challenge this month for OpenSUSE.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I think it's great.
So now he had said, no, from what I see on the Twitter, somebody had mentioned, is there going to be another, or what are you going to do with the Telegram group? And he said, well, there's so many people in it, I don't think I want to change it from elementary. So is he going to create another
So
group?
what's happening is, at least what we seemed to have found out, is that the main group that was for the Elementary OS challenge is going to become like a more generic, like following along with different distro challenges. And that's going to kind of spin into that instead of remaining on Elementary OS, which is why another group spawned up that I obviously have nothing to do
Obviously.
with.
Obviously.
For an Elementary OS users group was spawned in.
Doesn't that already exist?
No.
Not on Telegram, no.
Yeah.
And we had a really nice visitor the other week who's now a member of that group. So nice big kudos there to Shikin.
I was really surprised. Because here's the thing, though, is I can see why he might not have the tendency to kind of jump into groups like that, because it's so easy as a developer to get harassed by everyone. So I can see why he'd probably avoid being parts of things like this. So the fact that he joined was like
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't just join; he joined in the conversation as well.
Yeah.
Pointed people to different web pages and everything. So yeah, that was pretty cool to see. I think the whole, you had it right, Chicken, last week when you wrote that post. The whole thing, watching the whole thing unfold, was a great thing for the Linux community. So, yeah.
And I don't have that right-click issue in Firefox or the files in desktop either. So must be the old Logitech cheapo mouse works wrong.
Colin, you're down under, mate. So make sure it's not happening on the left mouse click. Back to front. Right.
I have a newer Logitech, and it's happening. So I don't know.
Some of the things that that I think have been great about this is just kind of watching everybody join in. People who have no experience with Linux to people who have been here forever, and that kind of connection. I just don't think you see that anywhere else, and blows me away.
Pretty awesome. Dave is here. What's going on? You're muted.
No, I just try not to make noise when I don't need to.
Okay. What's happening?
Not much. I'm sorry for being late. I was out to dinner with my better half.
How could you be late? No, it's all good, brother.
Because she wanted to go someplace. Her boss gave her money to go out and eat, and we went to a winery and restaurant.
Nice.
Sounds good.
All right. So did you happen to test Rosa this week?
I did. It installed nicely, the base install. Didn't play nicely when I tried to install, even through their menus, the NVIDIA drivers. So I figured I'd hold off on that. It did force me to learn a little bit more about my bash scripting for my install scripts, which was a good thing. But I discovered that it doesn't by default have XFS tools installed. So when I linked my other drives in my system, it wouldn't reboot and went into the drop down to just the X server wouldn't boot.
Ooh, right.
And it just dropped to the trouble, and I was like, well, okay, I'll just install the needed utilities, command line, no problem. Except I had no clue what the install command was. So I went poking around on my laptop, and it's not any of the standards. It's not DNF. It's not Zipper. It's not Pacman. It's not apt. It's
URPMI.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. URPMI. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. So I fooled around with that for about half an hour before I broke down and pulled a Zeb and went next.
That is so unlike you, Dave.
So URPMI has been around a long time. I don't know why nobody knows it.
That explains a lot.
Probably the same reason it booted into a, what was it, 4.9 kernel.
No,
but as somebody said that there's nothing wrong with old kernels.
No, there's not. Which is why even when I saw that, I was like, well, okay, it's not that old. It's
right.
It's old enough to where pretty recent hardware can't boot at all with it, though. That's the main issue, is that if you're not even able to boot into it, I mean, I'm pretty sure most
it may have been some
ISO.
of the problems that my system was having, because it's none of the hardware is older than, I think, a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, my hardware's older. So.
Hardware it is.
But it did send me down a good 2-hour rabbit hole in my bash scripting to learn some more in that. So it was a positive for that for me.
There you go.
So I would take URPMI over apt any day. Just saying.
But okay, so why would you take that? Why would you say that?
Because I have like about 8 years on URPMI before I even did anything with apt. So,
but so this is quite interesting, because in the back end, do you understand how it works and how it pulls all the things together? And that's a technical answer, or
it's
your
such a pain in the
answer?
apt.
Yeah. So I understand how it works in the backside. So, or the underpinnings, whatever. And so I understand it's not a, to troubleshoot, it's not a problem at all. I mean, it still uses systemd. So, if you have to, turn on or off any services, it's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't mention was, I thought it was interesting. They use ButterFS for home and root by default. I don't know if anyone knows that.
I'm a fan of that, by the way. ButterFS is just
right.
That's really weird you'd say that, but I didn't mind that at all. I thought it was interesting.
Cool.
What's not to love about ButterFS? Butter is great.
Everybody likes butter, right?
I was going to say, unless you put it into RAID 5 or 6.
I still can't believe it's not butter.
Honestly, the only time I would ever use ButterFS is if I need RAID support and I don't have RAID. Yeah. Because it can do something similar to that.
ButterFS's RAID, like their RAID tools are so like stupid nice. Like if you try to make a software RAID setup with XFS, it's such a garbage process.
Yes, but what would a regular user like myself benefit from ButterFS?
Better performance on SSDs, typically. Typically more reliable.
Snapshots for when things get screwed up, you can just roll your system back a lot easier.
Only if snapshots are already set up. The thing is OpenSUSE is the only distro I know of that actually has snapshots enabled by default. Like even if you install Fedora with ButterFS, you still have to manually configure snapshots. And even then, on most systems with the grub, you can't actually boot to those snapshots. They're not bootable.
Yeah, but most of the basic users that go into OpenSUSE, they usually turn off the snapshots because all they see is their disk space getting used up really fast.
I even do the same thing because
But can you install it without ButterFS?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. On systems with low specs, I don't install. I use XFS typically for root.
XFS is pretty good.
That's what I use on all my drives.
Why would you do that?
Why would I do that?
Yeah.
Well, ButterFS does. I noticed on some like lower spec systems when it does the snapshot maintenance. I suppose it could turn off the snapshots, but when it does the snapshot maintenance, that takes up some processing time, and if you don't have the overhead for that, that can grind your system to a halt.
So one of the great things about XFS is if you've got 80 drives running at once at the same volume, it's perfect for that.
Nice.
And there's a lot of home users that have 80 drives on.
But no, it's a
If
really
I have
solid
80
file.
drives, I go with ZFS.
Yes, I've got 12 icy docks sitting all stacked in my system.
So you have like SDA, then SDB, then SDC, SDD. What happens when you get to SDZ?
How does that work?
SDZA?
SDZA?
SDZA.
I have no idea. I've never gotten it.
SDAB, something. I believe it's like that.
I think it's SDAA or something like that. I do know if you have an NVMe drive, it goes NV0ME1, something like that.
Yes, that's right.
NVMe 01, 0N.
Yeah.
1P1.
Because it doesn't denote them with a typical SD whatever syntax. It uses something completely different.
Yeah, M.2 is NVMe.
You know what's funny is out of all the times that I've set up machines that have over like 26 drives, that's how many? That's 26 letters. Yeah. I've never actually looked at that because I've always had just like a RAID controller handling all of that. So how am I supposed to see that? Anytime you're using that many drives, it's so unlikely you're even going to see that level.
Unless you have a HBA card and go with a ZFS, you won't see that.
I have a feeling you like ZFS. Just a hunch.
Yeah, I do.
Well, technically, they removed it from kernel support, didn't they? ZFS?
They did. Yep.
Not directly, but
no,
it
just one of the features.
It was the like G something streams that it needed for checksumming, I think.
Yeah, and also it's a performance thing now. So without that feature, now the performance is going to take a dump.
So hopefully they find a way around.
Well, I mean, technically, it was originally meant for a BSD, and you know.
Yeah, and what NVMe does is it goes NVMe 0N1, 0N2, 0N3 for the number of drives you have, and then it will give you P1, P2, P3, P4 hanging off the end of it.
Yeah.
It's not that I've got multiple NVMEs, but I've got one there, so yeah.
The way I heard it expressed with ZFS was that the kernel developers were like, well, BSD never really cared about Linux, for ZFS, so why should we, bend over backwards with the kernel to continue supporting something that nothing else in Linux needs or uses when we can optimize the kernel without that?
There's a bit of bitterness there,
Yeah.
So, I mean, it can be worked. It can be worked around, and the ZFS on Linux doesn't use those extensions that were taken out of the kernel. So it's a matter of whether the BSD versions swap over to the way that ZFS on Linux is doing it.
Isn't that where they're going with them?
They're rebasing. It's just they haven't yet.
They will do a ZFS on Linux, and they will rebase that to use the BSD.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in the next couple months that they're going over and doing
the timing of all of this is just so weird.
But it's running okay on my data server, so that's all I care.
Yeah. All right, so I got to ask you, Wine 4.0 came out, and it's got all of this new stuff in it, Vulkan support, Direct 3D, DirectX 12 support.
Nice.
Does that matter?
3D.
Yes, it does matter.
Yes.
Yep. Does that matter? Yeah. I mean, as far as like with Proton and everything, how does that matter?
So, I'm going to take, for example, Battlefield 5. I know for a fact is going to be using DirectX 12. A lot of people love Battlefield games. So by enabling DirectX 12 support, you will be able to have better performance for games like Battlefield 5 and Rise of the Tomb Raider and games like that, not just in Wine, but also in Proton, because Proton is based off of Wine plus DXVK. And if you have Wine 4.0 and you're using DXVK with games like that, you're going to get even better performance because DXVK's whole purpose is to translate DirectX to Vulkan. So because of that, if if you can benefit from Wine 4.0, because there are some instances where you want to use an older Wine version because it breaks X or it fixes Y or it has better performance in Z. If you can benefit from using Wine 4.0, do it. But do it only if you're going to benefit from it, because like anybody who deals with Wine on a daily basis knows, you're going to have like 20,000 installations of Wine for like 20 different Windows apps, because each Windows app is going to have a specific version of Wine that it works best with, because of who knows why. Because Windows is a piece of trash. So,
and because Wine is a piece of trash.
Well,
Also,
Wine is not as big of trash.
No one knows any better.
So I'm actually kind of excited about Wine for a completely different reason. So there are the CAD packages out there, primarily the commercial ones. They do not run on Linux at all. So any kind of serious CAD work is you cannot do on Linux right now. FreeCAD is very good and it's getting there, but it's not. You can only view. Well, you can do a lot in FreeCAD, but you can't do the complex models and assemblies from my perspective. Anyway, so the big CAD packages like Creo, SolidWorks, and Solid Edge, things like that. I'm hoping with that DirectX 12 and maybe some other tweaking in there, you can actually get those CAD packages to work on Linux. Not that I don't want people to use FreeCAD, but some people need to have SolidWorks or Creo or Solid Edge.
You need the power.
So if Wine can sit in the middle there and make that happen, that would actually be really great for a lot of people and a lot of businesses, especially in my field. Anyway,
I don't know. Can you use FreeCAD to do 3D printing? Because I've tinkered with it minimally.
You can actually take I don't know if you know what LeoCAD is, but it's a Lego CAD software. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
You can actually export that into a file format that FreeCAD can use, and you can actually 3D print entire Lego sets that don't come apart. So
nice.
That's fun.
Whoa!
Wow.
Oh. That sounds like
the Wonder Twins have arrived.
But
well, you know,
it's the Wonder Twins, Michael and Ryan.
All right then.
I see some folks on the bottom there.
To slightly change.
Hi, new people.
It looks like Parrot OS has
I don't think I've ever
issue.
spoken to Dusky.
What kind of certificate issue?
What's happening?
Dust Geeks about as early as Michael shows up on time.
Hey, notice Michael and I show up at the same time. I'm getting his bad habits here, clearly.
I'll say. You're almost twins.
It happens. So I heard you guys were talking trash about a distro that I started contributing to this year, Rosa.
Really?
Yeah.
Contributed to
Voluntarily or code?
Better pull that credit card, I think.
I was going to say, if it's code, that would explain a lot of the problem.
That's my baby. I can't believe y'all don't like it. It's my good work.
I think in general, people were much more disparaging on it than they should have been.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. See, Nate, I appreciate that.
I
Oh,
did
my
call
hard
it
work.
the charred remains of a dumpster fire. So you might have to-
I was going to say,
I freely admit that most of the problems I had with it were probably of my own making. So I don't blame the distribution for the issues I had.
I do.
Good way of looking at it.
But I do blame distribution. I had a lot of problems, and
so Ryan,
installed ISO problem. Too many updates.
If you would have grown up in Linux in the early 2000s, you would not have thought it as painful. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's why basically I assumed that it was, my screw ups that caused me my issues, and trying to get stuff done the quick way, and and then the way I'm used to thinking in the command line, it just.
I did an update. I clicked the button to update, and it broke my Wi-Fi. That wasn't my fault. I click buttons all the time.
in my defense,
try syncing the repo without setting the repo first, so that all the packages and apps get deleted.
Wow.
Okay. Well, you see, if you was a new user to Linux and you went, I'm going to try Rosa, you're just going to do what you normally do, install it, click the update button. You expect it to be up to date and everything works. Beyond that, that's going to be a tough issue for anybody. So that's the perspective I look at most distros, and it's got to be, from my perspective, from other people's. Some people have deeper knowledge where they can go into it. That's fine. But looking at it from just a user point of view, it failed to update properly. Now, that's only on my hardware, though. That might have been different. I didn't try a different laptop. I only tried it on one. So, but both failed.
The site did say it was built for businesses, right? So the desk side support needs something to do. So that's what it's that's what it's there for.
Okay, well, say if I was running a business, then it still failed, didn't it?
Yeah, it's even
maybe if
bigger
you were in
failure.
Russia, it probably would have been fine.
I mean, I can't run a business without Wi-Fi. Let's face it.
Do they
I
have
can't-
any
I can't
businesses
do it.
listed that use it? Like, is that what CVS uses to print those huge receipts, or what?
I was going to say,
Well, Ryan,
apparently it's
you
the Russian
contributed
military.
it. You contributed to Rosa.
And
So
Colin,
tell
the
me
only
one
reason
good thing
that
about
you
it.
can't run it as a business is because of attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
You're muted, Rocco, by the way.
Yeah.
Rocco muted himself as soon as we joined. He's like,
How am I muted?
But my mom said if I can't say anything nice,
Somebody muted me because I didn't mute myself.
Michael, quit muting Rocco.
I don't have the power. I would have though.
Jeez.
It's probably
Ryan-
me trying to let you two guys in and then did that extra click. I was trying to use. I'm
Did you
trying
see
to use
that?
this single click thing. It just doesn't work, guys. Sorry.
You see that he muted me? How? I mean, what's going on here?
It's love.
Anyway, Ryan, you seeing as how you contribute to Rosa. Tell us one good thing about it.
Well, by the way, I use Arch, so I wouldn't know anything about it. In case you were wondering. No, I've never tried it, but it based on this forum here of people who are very intelligent. Let me see. Yeah, most. Then I would definitely say that I will not give it a try.
Yeah,
because if you all can't get it working, I'm definitely not going to be able to get it working.
Nate got it working. Nate had no problems at all.
I didn't even try.
Two separate systems. I didn't have any issues. One was a VM, but whatever.
Were both systems running AMD by chance? Just curious.
Nope. They were
Oh.
Intel on both.
Failed.
Shut up, Zeb.
Michael,
Hey,
Michael, I
had the
suggest you
KDE
give.
version running quite nicely. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah, I suggest you try the KD4 version.
No.
Brings back memory
He
lane.
said no.
I didn't
Just
like
stick
four
with
when
the GUIs. Stick with the GUIs and avoid the command line in that if you can. In that case, it should work fine.
That sounds like the 2019 spirit.
Well, let me ask you all this:
I
for
mean,
those
it
who
kinda
did
does, actually.
Hannah Montana challenge, which one would you rather run?
Hannah Montana.
Montana.
Yeah, probably.
Color in my life.
I'd go with
Even
Rosa.
getting updates because that meme has been dead for a long time.
Michael?
Michael's updating it actually.
Yeah,
Yes, he
Michael's
was supposed to
contributed.
respin it. Come on.
Colin's Wi-Fi would still work.
Well, I can't respin it because Peppermint doesn't work like that.
Yeah, we have tons of Linux cred. He supports Hannah Montana. I support Rosa. We're doing great.
I've
Next is Rebecca Black.
I've been up to something Dark One would totally approve of. I've been using OpenShot as my primary video editor.
You mean
Why do you approve of that?
My man.
Why would you approve of that?
I
That's
would.
not
He
even
wouldn't
remotely
approve
like random and obscure.
Sarcastically approve of it.
I thought you were going to say I'm randomly trolling people on YouTube, and I was like, well, yeah, that he would appreciate.
And Dark One, the only thing Dark One appreciates.
We've been over this. It's just you and Michael.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
Michael, I think your audio's messed up a little bit. Your mic is not sounding as good as it normally is.
Yeah,
I think he's on.
It doesn't sound as good as your hair looks.
No, it sounds almost like you're using a webcam mic or something.
Sounds like you're using the
What?
It sounds
like.
very, sounds very tinny. Yeah, very tinny.
And yours is really, really loud, Colin.
Change the input.
Is it?
Does not change the input automatically when you plug in your audio device.
Try reconnecting to AOL.
Oh,
Welcome, Chris. How are you?
is that better?
Cold.
Cold. So So I noticed an interesting chat conversation going on in one of the Telegram groups, and that's all this stuff that Chrome OS are doing with advert blockers or not advert blockers.
No, it's Chrome browser, not Chrome OS.
Oh, Chrome browser. Thank you. So,
the same.
what is the big hoo-ha? Are we not going to be able to use AdBlock Plus and?
You would be able to use AdBlock Plus, but not uBlock Origin or uMatrix or anything that's actually good because AdBlock Plus is garbage.
And
Because
what's
it actually
the
inserts
excuse
ads,
for doing
not
this?
Okay, hold on. Can't have everybody talk at once, or nobody's going to be able to hear anybody. Okay,
Sorry.
so one at a
Good
time.
point.
Go ahead, Zeb.
I was just going to say, what's their excuse for doing this? How could they do something so silly?
Because they're Google and they want to.
No, their
Because they are
excuse is
masking-
libraries, right? They're saying basically it's to protect your security. They're changing the way that they're going to allow ad blockers to work. And it just so happens that the only one that's partnered with Google is the one that's already ready to be used for this ad block service. And that's because they whitelist Google's ads to go through their ad blocker anyways. It's just a coincidence, people. Come on.
One question.
AdBlock Plus?
Yes, AdBlock Plus is the one. Yeah.
One question. Why would a company that one of the main points is selling ads would go and not block ad blocker? That's my question.
Those ads, so Google is affected by ads that are crappy. They're an ad company. They serve ads everywhere, but terrible ads that are horrible, popping up all over the place that block your, like, those aren't Google ads.
That's
Sites may do them poorly and stuff, but that's what Google doesn't want. Even though they may have some self-serving reasons here, they do care about bad ads not showing, but at the same time, they're using this to also push their ads as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because
And
they
Michael,
benefit from it.
Michael, you were right. uBlock Origin is the best out there.
Mm-hmm.
It is
uMatrix is
incredible.
made by the same people who make uBlock Origin. It's done for a different thing.
I thought it's pronounced MuBlock, not uBlock, because it's a mu, not a u.
No, it's you.
He has a point there.
It's uBlock.
It's you.
Everybody ignores the fact that it's got a funny U, and it's just.
I
uBlock,
heard
I
the
think.
same thing.
It's
Both
done for branding.
What a U is a mu.
It's done for the visual of it. When the guy who made it, Raymond Hill, he said it's just uBlock.
Yeah.
No, it's obviously Mewtwo block.
All right, you Pokemon geek.
Because they hate anime.
You gotta catch all the ads.
So, a spin-off question from that then. Do you think this is going to lead to more OSs offering stuff like Peppermint does, where you can load up lists in your host file and block stuff that way?
I think the vast majority of the stuff that would happen would be people moving away from Chromium and going to Firefox.
Yeah.
Because
Now, does this,
Chromium based.
No, you can't. They can't. Everything that's based on Chromium would also be affected by this change.
well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is Chromium itself affected by
Anything
this?
that uses WebKit, the engine WebKit is affected.
Okay, it's Blink, but still the same thing.
Yeah.
I
But
would like
we're
to
still
point
going to
out-
be
Well-
it's still going to be a minority of us that actually understand what's going on and move away from it to
Yeah.
Firefox.
These
Well, I mean, the
changes,
people who build uBlock, if you use uBlock Origin or uMatrix, they said that there will be a warning that it's going to die if that happens.
Well-
if you install it, it'll work.
Does that leave the let's put it this way, does that leave uBlock users and uMatrix users in the lurch for Firefox? I mean, is the whole extension going to be removed?
The whole extension would be worthless because
No, I'm talking Firefox version.
No, it's just for Chrome.
Okay, all right.
So
I'm saying, would he not generate enough money to continue support for Firefox?
No, he said he would keep doing it for Firefox. It was only
good.
break on Chrome or Chromium, anything Chromium based.
Because that's not how it
I
first
don't
sounded.
care. I don't use it
Sounded like-
anyway.
Yeah, it sounded like you were saying uBlock was going to be dead after Chrome goes.
Oh, my
will
bad.
on Chrome.
It'll be dead on the Chrome version.
Gotcha.
I would like to point out that these things aren't entirely final yet. There are possibilities that it can change, and there's even legal action being threatened. But knowing Google, before they change anything, they'll make sure people suffer.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many times have you had those little pop-ups from Google saying, "Oh, we're going to change this. Do you like it?" And I think I must have clicked the flaming things 1,000 times saying, no, 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 I hate it. And then next week it changes anyway. So they might have a lot of people listening. They might have a lot of people suing them. But I think Michael summed it up at the beginning. They're Google. They'll do what they want.
I don't mean to derail the conversation. Has anybody mentioned the fact that Chicken looks like he's being teleported onto the Starship Enterprise?
That's his cool background.
Same as last week too. He was trying to get the red background to do it, but he couldn't. He can only do it with his shirt.
That's his fancy
green, right?
Scotty's only captured half of them.
So what version is that of the Logitech camera that does that?
This is actually a feature that is now in Zoom. So if you check on your Zoom settings, it's a virtual background.
Here goes your show, Rocco.
Chicken's wearing a green shirt. That's why he's able to use the background.
Rocco's now going to have 20 psychedelic people in chat. It's a warning that people who suffer from any sort of like epileptic fits do not watch this broadcast. Otherwise, you're going to go all over the place.
The good thing about it, though, is that because it's kind of like a static background and it only happens like when you move over it, it's not like a huge issue. I feel like if it was, that'd be kind of distracting.
Yeah.
So also on the browser front there, Basilisk, I don't know if you guys have tried it or not.
Didn't they kill that in the last Harry Potter? Or?
Well, no.
I thought that was the second Harry Potter.
Yeah, but they are dropping.
First one, wasn't it?
No, second or third.
Second one.
It was a second one, Chamber Secrets.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. So what was that, Rocco? They're doing what?
I don't know. They were talking about Harry Potter.
Harry Potter is great. Now
I was going to bring it back to Linux for you.
They are dropping web extension support. So
what?
That is a big deal. That is actually a big deal. So they're pretty much basically going to make. I mean, I guess Pale Moon is the same way, right, Michael? I mean,
yeah, Pale Moon is a fork of the old version of Firefox, which kind of makes sense that they would not have support for web extensions. But Basilisk was supposed to be the modern version of Firefox that didn't do, for whatever reason, people don't like Firefox for. I don't know. So I don't see the point of Basilisk now.
Yeah, dropping web extensions pretty much makes it. You might as well use Pale Moon. I mean, there's no difference really.
Yeah, you lose the benefit of basically all extensions that are being maintained.
Mm-hmm.
So,
according to my research from other sources, that the Firefox is becoming a little bit more trying to generate their own income from their own version of ads, quote unquote, but not necessarily as evil as Google, but it's still somewhat discouraging for some die-hard free and open source people.
I mean, yeah, but they're also against the fact that Mozilla has their own license in general and don't just adhere to the GPL. So, I mean, they're never gonna agree with Firefox anyways, because there's anything that's remotely not in agreement to them.
Right.
I was going to say those are also the same people who will comment on a YouTube video. Note the irony.
Well, Aris in chat says, "Who uses Basilisk?" Well, probably nobody now, because it's still a beta basically, and they had said, yeah, they're going to have web extension support, and now they pulled it out, and that's okay. They can do whatever they want with it, but the whole idea, the whole prospect of using Basilisk was the fact that it would be basically an updated Pale Moon type of thing where you would have the more modern base, and now you don't. So it's kind of like
would there be a browser agnostic side-loaded extension universe that's going to sprout out from all this that could allow for such as uBlock and anything like that?
Nope.
There is actually a way that you can install an extension that is independent of the browser itself. I don't exactly know how this is done, but I do know that uBlock does have a way to do this from their GitHub. And somebody actually asked me to put uBlock in Drugger OS. And there's a whole explanation for why I'm not doing that.
Yeah, that's probably just like LastPass does it.
Yeah. My whole reasoning is if you're installing things from GitHub, it's a pain to get things uninstalled from GitHub when you're doing from source like that, especially if you don't know what you're doing.
That's just a open source issue, but that's also not accurate anyway. You can't install something that the browser doesn't implement. You can't just install an extension for the browser that doesn't recognize the API of the extension system. Like, that's just not possible.
There's some weird way you can install it for both.
No, that's because they already support it. They're using the web extensions. Web extensions is an API that's built into those browsers. He's asking if there's an extension system that is separate from the browsers that you can somehow implement it into the browser. That's a no. It has to support, because they support web extensions, anything that supports web extensions could, in theory, use these extensions in their browser. But without that, it would be a no.
Yeah, I wonder what this could mean for Vivaldi as well, because I'm a
Same problem.
Yeah, because
problem.
I'm a big fan of Vivaldi, and I like their Chrome compatibility with all their extensions. And I survive, and I try to avoid ads like the plague with uBlock, and having all that flashy bad ads experience removed with uBlock. I'm just, the web is going to be a little bit more animus toward users that are trying to keep themselves a little bit safer.
That's why you need to switch to Firefox.
That's right.
Yeah, you can't just the UI as finally as Vivaldi. You can't make
one of the. What are you talking about? The UI is what do you mean?
So the way I have Vivaldi set up, I have it set up at where the tabs are like very, very small, where the text is only like 6 points, and it's like only like very, very small, and the content on the center is like a lot bigger than what you get. There's like a lot more real estate with the web page, and you can also do multiple tabs in the same window, like tile them together within the browser window. Features like that.
There's an extension for the tile stacking, but I do agree that tile stacking is nice in Vivaldi. But that's not. I thought you were talking about the UI. So the font thing, I don't know if you can change it because.
No, I tried looking, and it's something weird. You have to go into the experimental, and the smallest that I could set it is not as small as I could put it in Vivaldi.
Tab Mix Plus might be able to give you the option. I'm not sure if they've actually ported it or not yet. I could look into that as an extension.
One of the important things to note about Google's strategy, and this may or may not be directly connected to this whole sort of removal of that ad blocking functionality, is that ads on the web are critical and key, but ads that are poorly displayed are not. And if Google is going to implement ad services in a proper way, it's going to eventually end up having some kind of first-party way of managing that. I don't know if you guys remember when Chrome was talking about built-in ad blocking.
Yes.
So probably still happening.
This is all kind of coming together because the main goal, and I don't know if this particular move is connected to that, but the main goal is that first-party ads are pretty much the way to go. Ads that are serviced up by some kind of weird back-end crazy source, or ads that open up some kind of tunnel to another universe that's just not what they want.
Probably Google will try that there will only be their ads and the ads that are first-party sourced directly by the people advertising.
Right, either Google's ads or Facebook's ads, because I have no doubt that Facebook would be a big player in regards to ads, because
it's just as much ad revenue without having the complaints coming in that people are that currently send to them for all the third-party ads that come in from the weird places.
It's interesting.
What a dangerous thing for the internet, right? To have Google controlling more than what they already control.
Absolutely.
I will be honest.
They're a company. They're trying to get money.
I prefer Google over a lot of other companies.
Yeah, but they're trying to get money, but so are all the smaller ads on websites.
But it's very anti-competitive. Yeah, I mean, you can't have Google being the sole depository for all ads that they get to decide which ones go through and don't. And because they own the entire browser market at like, 89+%, then they get to basically choose, hey, you're small business. We don't care about it because we're going to serve up this IBM or Intel ad or whatever because they're paying us, $20 million and you can only afford $10,000. And it starts getting real anti-competitive there.
I don't think they would do that. I don't think they would do that because they already own the advertising market.
They do, but now they would own every facet of it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's not just that, they would be controlling the advertising. That's not a huge issue if you're able to block the ads. But once they take that ability away, then it becomes a big deal.
I think they would lose at least 30% of the people they have right now.
Let's hope.
And it stays a cat and mouse game because as soon as they do that, there are going to be people that figure out how to go in and hack it so that they're blocked again.
You'd have to recompile the whole browser because the way they're doing it is like literally removing pieces of the API inside of the browser, so the extensions would just break. And there's no way to fix them unless they said that Raymond said that he could fix it and rebuild the entire thing to use that new API. But if they were to do that, there's a limit on the amount of times you can use the API to 30,000. And he said it's a guarantee that they would go past that limit very quickly. So by even doing it and rewriting it, it would be worthless because once you say you have 1,000 people and they're blocking 30 ads, you're done. So
yeah, but just like Chromium forked off of Chrome, you don't think somebody's going to come along and recompile?
Chromium and Chrome are the same thing.
Basically.
Chromium is the open source version of Chrome, both made by Google.
The interesting thing about this,
not compiled. It's not the exact same compilation.
Yeah, one's open source, one is Google's proprietary stuff on top of the open source version.
Yeah, it's
but they're both Google.
Open core. Open
Michael,
core
you mentioned running out of tries, more or less, and
basically.
The crazy thing is that even just one browser session can do that. Like ad requests come through so often.
Mm-hmm.
These things get just one person browsing would kill.
It's possible. I mean, it's something. If they do it, they're basically gutting their own market share for really no reason other than money.
There's got to be something they're trying to do here because this is.
Well, they could try to port.
I mean, we could always try and protest on Reddit and then have Google change their mind.
I love this.
Or
idea.
if only there was a great open source browser solution that supported the community and was just as fast as Chrome.
Waterfox.
Brave.
But then we'll be worried that it might become
Make your own browser based on wget.
No.
Firefox, people. That was the answer I was looking for.
Epiphany. That's what it is.
You had an epiphany, and it's Firefox.
Shut across the browser and chicken's not there. So you missed. A shot on a miss there, Rocco.
I said Firefox and chicken runs. Look at that.
Yeah, you knew that one was coming, so he disappeared, mate.
True to himself, right?
Scared him off.
Do you think
Oh,
someone would
yeah, he's back.
revive something like Navigator?
What was that, Chris?
Do you think someone would actually try to revive something like Navigator? Try to get it updated to do like HTML5, etc.?
It's so far beyond that. That one is so far beyond. It's anciently dead. Like they would have to rebuild the entire thing.
Sea monkey.
Oh yeah, I actually remember experimenting with that. Oh crud! I actually remember experimenting.
Why don't we just go back to Gopher? You know.
I was trying to use Gopher the other day in Archie, and there aren't any servers left.
Dial up.
No,
That's
there
not
aren't
even
any.
telling, Barbara, is it?
Go back to links and just stay on the command line.
Oh, Lynx is great. I love it.
No, it's a shame because Chromium, whichever you use, Opera, Brave, they are a viable alternative to use. It's just a shame that this is going to happen because it's going to cut that down. And Chrome, I don't know, Google better watch because they're going to end up cutting into their own market share. Not realizing it.
Yes, good.
Well, I know for sure that mistakes companies make never put them out of business that are that large, right?
Well,
Too large
that's
to
what
fail.
it is.
I mean, it's very true because Equifax they made money off of their ADC.
I was thinking a bunch of other tech companies, but yeah, that'll work.
Well, yeah, Microsoft.
Well, I mean, YouTube also has their video creator sites, such as the YouTube, where they actually are purportedly blocking certain content with certain perspectives that are not quote unquote approved. I'm not referring to the conspiracy theory route, but it's tangential, but still.
Oh, you're talking about the new article just came out like this week about them taking out more content that they don't find appropriate.
They don't find appropriate, or they don't agree with the How can I put this in a way that's not going to offend people of certain political persuasion?
Don't worry about it.
Literally saying just that.
Just don't say it. That's the only way you wouldn't offend people.
All you can do is say exactly what you said and then stop.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Prophetic is in the house, even though he's
Is
not
that
there.
Prophetic?
But Michael, he wanted to let you know that your mic is made by Rosa. That's how
I always
Saw
like
that.
Prophetic. I like how he's representing Team Red there. That's awesome.
No.
Yeah.
Team Red.
Light it up.
All right, so Ryan, me and you were having a conversation earlier about Solus and EOPKG. So I wanted to get everybody's take on it, but what were we talking about?
Well, I don't have all the specifics, but Solus laid out their plans for 2019, which was fantastic, by the way. They did a fantastic job of saying, here are the things we're going to be working on. I've seen a lot from this project with some of the uncertainties that had happened before of them reaching out to the community and doing better communication, and I just love that. So anyways, they laid out their plans for 2019, and in there, I saw something really interesting because they talked about replacing their package manager out there. So I assume it's EOPKG that they're replacing with the new package manager, and I'm trying to find the article since you brought it up here. It's their plans for 2019, but yeah, they're moving to a new system, it looks like. I think it's
So
Sol.
does anybody know
Sol.
about it?
It is Sol. That's right. I remember reading that.
Yep.
Actually, I
anybody here know
heard
anything
about
about
it 2 years ago.
Yeah, so it's in their plans that if you go to their 2019 plans, I'll put the link in the chat here. It is planned for towards the end to have that completed. So they have a month-by-month layout of what you can expect. Starting in July through September is when Sol items start happening in the planned release of Sol 1.5.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think that's very interesting because, you know, one of the things that I haven't played with, in fairness, Solus in a long time. But one of the things I remember being an issue was getting the software you wanted into Solus. It just didn't seem to have the same amount of options as other software and distributions out there. So I don't know what Sol will be, but I know they're introducing a lot of support for Flatpak and snaps. So I think that's going to present a lot more options for getting software within their software center.
And Solus is optimized for gaming significantly with their Steam integration service thing. Trying to remember. I remember.
Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah.
Well, my question is, does that change? Does that just put a new face to the back end of installing software in Solus, or does that change and allow more software into the repos by using a different package manager?
Well, it says Sol Daemon will have a third-party backend to facilitate installation of third-party repo items using YPKG, which should not otherwise be supported by Flatpak or snaps, such as Google Chrome. So it looks like they're going to add that it's going to add a bunch of third-party options in there as well. That's interesting. I don't know. I know that didn't answer your question, Rocco. I thought it did when I started reading the sentence, but yeah.
Well, because Solus, started out and they used the EOPKG, and everybody thought it was, it was supposed to be, the best thing, and now they're switching to a different package manager, and I'm not blaming them for it because of their situation and the way it fell out. But my question is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Switching the whole thing over to a different package manager. So.
My question would be, is it compatible or is it like going from Yum to DNF?
I don't know. I don't know much about it, man. That's why I was hoping one of you guys would know more about, what it was about and what it could do.
The one thing that I hope they don't change is using the deltas, because having that delta thing in there where it just does the changes it needs to and nothing more, that speeds things up so much, and it actually makes me a little bit jealous of Solus users because your updates take way less time versus apt where you have to download the entire installation package. So yeah, but I don't know if they're going to do that or not, because
well, I mean, competing standards make for better standards in the end, don't they?
Sometimes.
Hopefully, yes. Potentially, it could also make for worse standards, but you never know.
No standards are the best standards.
There is your mic. There is the great sounding Michael Tennell.
Is it actually good?
Yes, it is.
That one sounds like it's made by Plasma now.
Oh.
Yeah, there we go.
They actually had money to spend on it.
Way better, dude. Way better.
Good.
Do you know anything about the new package manager for Solus?
I know what it's called.
Okay, good. Moving on.
That's about it. They haven't really provided much information about it other than that they're working on it.
We stumped Michael.
Yes.
It is. I can tell you when it's coming.
We know that already, Michael.
We all know that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, they haven't really given us much information in the first place.
It looks like at the end of the day, more software.
Although I could talk to Joss about it. I can do that later next week.
That would be awesome if we could find out like what its benefits are as far as does that allow more software in, or is it just, does it allow only the same software, which is
it's going to, I mean, as far as that goes, it makes it easier because that way they could, the EOPKG is a very limited structure and they didn't make it. And this way they could tailor the package manager to work with both their own infrastructure as well as other things such as like snaps and flat packs, which they are planning to add as well.
Nice. And I think they'll finally be getting rid of their third-party installers as well, and that will be integrated into the software center more.
Yeah, they're going to do that too. Yep.
Any news on the Steam integration that they have already with Solus? Or
the Steam integration has been taken over by Intel, and Ike is back to work at Intel, and he's back to working on that.
Yep.
Oh,
nice.
Darn. Is that going to be bad for Team Red people?
I don't think so.
No, not at all.
I mean, when you said described it as Intel optimizing this, could they put like a...
Oh, no. They don't even make a graphics card yet anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Rosa OS did put in his prediction that Intel was supposed to make a GPU this year, apparently.
There's rumors about it, and they are...
Who listens to Thomas anyway?
They actually announced it.
They're talking about it.
Never aren't the commits? Aren't the commits on GitHub that have Ike's name on them geared more towards Proton and pretty much everything that's going into it, into Steam and Valve, not just for NVIDIA or AMD?
Well, I mean, part of what the Steam integration, all it does is fix certain issues of the Steam client on Linux. It's not really meant to be a replacement or anything. It's just meant to correct certain features, and you can use it as a package to improve Steam.
And that's the standalone install, not the snap, or could it work with the snap too? Sorry, I'm going in this rabbit hole.
I mean, it can work with the snap. I mean, I don't know if I think I know that Ike was planning on working on the snap version of it, but I don't know if it still is.
Sorry for that rabbit hole, guys.
It's all good. Prophetics in the house. What up?
What's up? What's up, guys?
He had me tell his daughter or something.
Yeah, so Mike was doing the live, I guess, behind the scenes for Tux Digital News, whatever the show is. Sorry. Whatever the show's called.
Tuxdigital.com/news of the week.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And my daughter was like eating lunch, and I told her, you better eat all your lunch because then we get to go to the park after. And I was on a live chat, and I told Mike, just kind of peek over your camera and look like you're talking, talking down to her, and tell her, Velina, finish your lunch so that your dad can take you to your park. And she like freaked out. She's like, oh. He knows.
That's awesome. I love it.
And then after she just like swallowed like 2 or 3 big bites, she was like, excuse me, sir, and started trying to like it was so
genius. Cute. Use Michael to scare your little kids into doing what you want them right. I am totally
it was kind of funny. Like, not even like even connected that Popey didn't know that you did that, and then probably like 15-20 minutes later, Popey joined and asked me to do that for his kid.
He said that his kid just completely ignored me.
Oh yeah. Well, I was actually had my newborn son on my chest sleeping, and Dark One said, "Ah, it's good strategy. Just put Mike on and put your boy to sleep." Like,
It is pretty boring, I will say that.
That was wow.
That does
One.
sound like Dark One for sure.
That was hilarious.
That does sound like Dark One.
No, but it was cool, man. It was cool. Appreciate you doing that. It was
No
fun.
problem.
Yeah, Michael was actually, Michael says he was on time for his stream this week, but I don't know if that was true.
I was early. What are you talking about?
Excuse me. Do we really want to go there?
We can't, because what I said was I talked to you before, and I said it's gonna be about somewhere between, and I gave like
noon
a
and 1
range.
Yeah, so 20 to 2. In fact, gone
No.
2.
My time is different from Eastern time. So what I'm
Yeah, but
talking about, my time.
you were talking about noon to 1 o'clock your time.
Yeah, I started at 1 my time.
About 20,
don't let him off the hook.
About 20 past 2 your time.
No, 1 my time.
Yeah,
I don't have Eastern.
No.
I'm not an Eastern.
Because of that, I was like absolutely exhausted, and I couldn't play games with Ryan.
That's not my fault. That is totally the fault of the time zone differences. The issue there, because I used Eastern just because it's easier for people to know what I'm referring to, because most people use Eastern to reference their time. I don't use it. It's not where I'm from.
Well, I obviously need to retire and just start waking up at American hours. That's what I need to do.
You know what would be better, Zeb? You know what would be better? If people would add to the GoFundMe page to bring you to America.
Yeah. Yes.
That would be awesome.
All right, so I'm going to put a link in the chat.
It's destinationlinux.org/Zeb to self.
Yeah, or you can follow the link I put in chat.
Which is huge, though.
But you just got to click on it.
Click on it. You're not going to retype it.
Well, I mean, that's like,
how much easier can you get to click on it?
Imagine
that's
this:
the marketer.
Live
That's the
streaming
marketer,
Zeb beating Michael with a baton at Southeast Linux Fest. That is where your money's going.
I don't. Okay, never mind. We're not bringing Zeb.
But Michael, I'll tell you the truth, if you wanted to standardize time, use UTC.
Yeah, then I'd have to know all of it and pay attention.
Then he'd have to be on time, Chris, and that's not going to happen. So
I have to be on time. I'll just tell you a thing, and it's going to be a range of 3 hours and somewhere in there.
Mike
anyway,
tends to work on the concept of today-ish. Mostly emphasis on the ish.
Yeah.
That is pretty accurate, yeah.
But anyway, the GoFundMe page is not a joke. So if you want to go there and you want to
bring him here,
put some donations to bringing Zeb to Southeast Linux Fest this year, it would be more than appreciated.
Yep, it'd be awesome.
I just want to say I am completely blown away by this. The number of people who jumped on it immediately when we talked about it after Destination Linux is truly awesome. So everybody out there who has donated and who will donate, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. It really is appreciated.
I just want to say I was first.
And what's truly amazing is Michael has one to get him a hotel there. It only has $1, but Zeb, you're almost funded. So
wow,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Wow,
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. I would just make Ryan pay for the hotel.
That's true.
Or you would just bum off of Ryan's hotel.
Well, at least when I come back, I'll be able to say I stayed in a Holiday Inn Express. Whatever that joke is, I've no idea because we don't get your ads in the UK.
It's
truly American.
Y'all need to remember anyway.
It's a commercial to say that people can learn stuff just by staying there for some reason. I don't.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, they had such a good night that they're competent in something that they've never done before.
Yeah,
YouTube is your friend, Zeb. Just check out a YouTube video for those commercials.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
I will do because
you got to do that because people would just be like, it was the one had a doctor and he was operating and he's like telling the people to hand him all these things, sutures, whatever. And at the end, he walks away and says, "All right, good job, people." And he walks away and he's like, "You're not Dr. So-and-so." He's like, no, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Which means you would get smarter if you
Jeopardy
stayed
ad
there.
Was pretty
Right.
funny. That's
It
what
was hilarious.
memorable in my childhood.
Makes as much sense as those Geico caveman commercials.
Yeah, which was a failed TV show.
Yeah, they even made a TV show off of that stupid commercial.
Well, I mean, technically, that was the breeding ground for the offended crowd that's currently on the internet today.
Commercials?
No, I mean specifically that caveman getting offended by that Geico joke.
Yeah.
So, I don't even know what you're talking
They
about.
made so many commercials off of that one joke. When they tried to make it into a running series, though, something a full-length series, it just fell flat.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the funny thing is there was a pilot, that unaired pilot that was released before the show was released, and it was not bad. And then the one they actually aired, it was not very good.
You know, some studio executive had their hand in that.
Probably.
Alrighty. Get back to
So,
Linux. Get back to
I was going
Linux.
to say, back to Linux. Well done, JJ.
So, a housekeeping thing for the challenge next week. It looks like the cert is broken on the direct download links, so you have to use a mirror or a torrent, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's not a good thing, right?
I tried the
Automatically.
torrent first, and it would not download, I assume, because I'm on Zoom. But anyway, I had to go to a mirror, and I had to use the second link on the US side, so...
Because my torrent came straight
My
down.
download
really
worked
quick.
just fine. Sorry,
Yeah.
Zeb.
What's the
Yeah,
what's the
yeah.
distro again?
Parrot OS.
Oh, okay. You're using the home edition though, right?
Of course.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's only our
Just
special
making sure.
guest. It's only our special guest that uses the real edition.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. By
and
the
I
way,
expect-
great episode.
Well, you're allowed
Thank
to use whichever version you want, but we don't recommend them.
Mm.
Well, not for a daily driver, at least.
Yeah. But I am actually going to do the Mate version because I haven't used Mate in a while. And I'm going to check it out and see what it is all about.
I noticed you saved that comment for after Barbara has left.
Oh.
I'm excited. Just saying.
Yeah, no, I've downloaded the Mate version as well. We'll give it a whirl and see how it goes. It's got anything's got to be better
Mate
than
is
that.
going to differ anyway from OS to OS, right? I mean, it's not going to look the same on Linux Mint Mate as it does on Ubuntu Mate, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
They're all different. It's mainly
How you
because
make the teaming?
The default Mate is less
Pretty
than
ugly.
desirable. Yeah.
Then
So-
tell me a default. Sorry, Colin.
The default Mate doesn't have software boutique. That's just a specific to Ubuntu Mate, is it?
Yes.
Correct.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's actually Mate tool, I believe.
No, it's not. It's an Ubuntu Mate thing.
It's an Ubuntu.
It's also part of any of the Ubuntu's could use the software boutique, but it's not a Mate tool.
Well, I guess we'll see. Well, but the boutique, is that able to be installed in other ones?
It's possible, but the only way I know of installing it is a PPA, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And what is Parrot based off of? Debian?
I think Debian.
Yeah. Somebody said Debian.
Yeah, I'm pretty
before.
sure it's Debian testing.
Of course, someone would always say Debian.
Thomas isn't here right now, so
Have I been summoned? What?
What, we
You may not be able to see me,
three
but I can
times?
hear you.
Yeah, it's based off Debian testing.
Okay, this should be interesting. Let's hope they get sudo sorted out.
I am not a big fan of Debian, man. Not a big fan of Debian.
Not that I'm
Where's Dolphin when you need him?
Yeah, but I mean,
Well,
MX,
works
they
with
do a
Debian,
lot of things to make it not Debian.
Yep.
I mean, I guess that's the best way
What-
I can say it. That just plain Debian is just not my
Debian is
thing.
technically the mother
What-
OS of a significant portion of distros that are out there, correct?
Whoever's talking right now, you got to pick up your mic, buddy.
Okay,
Very
I thought
quiet.
it was just me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're very
so-
quiet.
Right here?
Much
Yeah.
better.
A little bit
Lean
more.
into the microphone.
It's on a headset,
Talk
so
clearly into the flower.
What I was saying,
had that problem.
Debian, isn't it one of the quote unquote mother distros of all the other distros that are?
It is one of the foundation distros. Yes.
Yeah.
Grandmother distro.
I'm going to be uploading a video on Debian. I've been working on this for a while because it's very, very hard for me to understand the way it works. And but once you really go deep into it, it's just one of those things where you just got to be over and over. I don't know how many times I've installed it and messed around with it, but it's definitely different. But it surprises me how high it is on the distro watch list. And I know we don't usually take a lot of notice of distro watch, but it just surprises me because it's not your standard type of installation. So I'm very surprised, to be honest.
I mean, it's a GUI based installer, but it has specifics of like unique variables that they want you to go through that are more of a building structure rather than just installing.
Yeah, that's right.
But Debian is, I mean, a fundamental piece of Linux, right? So you can't really, like, it's not meant for everybody, but it is awesome. And what it does
is everywhere.
Yeah. And its requirement, like the fact that it's the building blocks of so many important distros, it's kind of hard to, not like it at least tangentially.
Yeah, but the idea of Debian being that is great. I'm saying for a daily driver, for my personal use, it's not for me.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rocco. Having to set up sudo, having to actually physically go in and edit PPAs rather than just the sudo adapt repository thing. Everything about it is meant to, I guess, teach you the basics of what Linux is about. I just prefer it when it's handed to me on a plate because I don't do RTFM.
Yeah, Debian is kind of like that, but it's probably it's not
work for something. For like, I'd rather work for Arch, like to learn something. I'd rather learn that deep with Arch. I don't have to for sudo. Like, I'm not trying to learn that.
Of course, there's always
give me Arch and I'll learn.
Well, sudo all it is just setting it up the configuration. So you're kind of doing that with Arch too, but in a different way. So with, like, Arch is more of a installation tutorial, a sense, like you're learning how the system's built, whereas Debian is you're learning how the system's built, but not fully, because it does a lot of stuff for you. It just gives you more options than most distros would. So as Arch is like you're forced to learn it, whereas Debian is like you're partially learning it, and then you're more learning, while you're running it.
What about Slackware? I mean, do we have a lot of forks coming off of Slackware? I haven't seen a whole lot.
Not anymore.
Not really. Slackware still has some, like Salix. There's a few that are still using Slackware, but it's still technically one of the foundations.
Well, I thought we had
Surge of those things.
Thought we had what?
I thought we had Surge in the chat for a minute. Next person, someone's going to bring up Gentoo, I guess.
Well, the thing is, I've tried a couple different distros. And I keep coming back to Fedora. I don't know why. I guess it's because when I was going for my degree, that's what they taught. They taught Core 4 on KDE version 4. That's although.
And is that the version you run, KDE?
Stuff right now. So.
Yeah, is that the version you run?
What was that? Sorry?
Is that the version you run, KDE?
No, I'm running Cinnamon on top of Fedora 29 right now.
All right.
That's because Fedora is like a comfortable old glove. It just always happens to fit right.
Or a comfortable hat.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even better. Yeah.
With someone the other day, I said every 9 months I'm a newbie anyway. So.
Yeah.
Michael, does Slackware deal with dependencies yet?
Yes, in some ways, yes.
Because I'm wondering if that's why it doesn't have as many downstream distros based on it as the other ones do, because that's always what kept me from jumping into it, was not wanting to get into dependency hell.
I mean, you're still going to have a little bit of that, but it depends on how you do it. Like if you use the Slack build system, It's easier because the Slack build system is kind of like AUR, but for Slack, and it does dependencies resolution somewhat in that. But mainly because it pulls in other binaries, but it's not like it doesn't do like the majority of what's done is, multi-level dependency structures. I don't think it does that, but I've seen.
I wonder if that's why there are fewer distros based on it than on Debian or Ubuntu.
Yeah. It totally could be.
There used to be a lot more.
It is a lot more difficult. You do have to go through those dependencies and install them yourself. But again, you'll have to forgive me because I'm terrible. There are two different tools, especially in something I've used Salix before. And there's a tool that you use to install software. And then if it's not there, you go to this other tool where you can sort of like compile it and download it yourself. And then sometimes that will come up with an error message that, I don't know, CMake or something else is not installed. So you flip back to the other one, install what's missing, run the install again. And I would say 90% of the time you eventually get to the end result. But for me, if it doesn't work with NVENC and OBS, I just can't use it because those are like the lifeblood. And that's why I can't stay with these obscure distros.
OBS is one of the main things for me too.
Seb, Kevin, and Aris both said in chat that if you don't set a root password for sudo, sudo comes in automatically in Debian if you don't set a root password.
Really?
In the setup. That's what they said.
Really?
Oh, okay. I'll leave that off next time then.
That's a life hack right there. I didn't know that either. That's pretty cool.
I mean, it's kind of similar to how Ubuntu works, where it by default there is no root password for sudo.
Right, but you can't get to root if you use sudo to set a password for root.
Yeah, you can create one.
But I'll certainly
you
try
don't
that
have
on the
to.
next. Yeah,
Right.
I'll certainly try that on the next Debian install. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna test that how it works.
All right. Well, we are 6 minutes left, so I think we should probably get a last word in for everybody.
I would just like to point out that these ribs are amazing.
Thanks, chicken.
And
Wait.
I'm so glad for the mute button.
I don't see how it's allowed that he could be eating anything other than chicken.
He's not a cannibal.
What's the word for that? So if you have pescatarian, what would like a chicken only eating person be called?
Chicken.
Poultritarian?
Fowl. Chicken.
Colonel Sanders?
What's the
Colonel
what's the
Sanders?
No, it's a poltergeist.
Wow, Michael.
Poltergeist?
Michael.
Poltergeist.
Response to that.
Poltergeist.
Just tell him, say, bite me.
All right, Zeb, last word, brother.
Well, it's quite good that we've got Parrot OS as our next distro challenge, because if you check out the latest episode of Destination Linux, we had an absolutely fantastic guest who can tell you all about penetration testing and everything there is to know about OS security. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. Great episode. And I always forget to say this, Rocco, but thank you so much for putting this out there every week. It's a pleasure to come and join all of my other friends here. So thanks very much, Bob.
Awesome. Hey, you want to put a link in there for that?
I certainly will do.
Thomas, last word.
All right. So thanks for having me on again. I always enjoy it every week. Check out DruggerOS at druggeros.ml. We finally have an apt repository after a year. So, yeah, finally following protocol.
For everyone.
All right, Peter, you're up. Last word.
So next week, we're going to find out if we have a live parrot or an ex-parrot.
Yep.
We know we've already got one expatriate.
That's me. It is no more.
Colin, last word.
Yep. Thanks, Rocco, for putting this on every week. It's great. It's fantastic. Looking forward to trying Parrot OS. Hopefully, all goes well. Cheers.
Michael, last word.
Yeah, thanks for the stream as always, and I guess I'll find out what the parrot meme is all about. Except I'm using the home version, so probably not.
Big Pod, last word, brother.
I'm probably sharing the thoughts of everyone. Hopefully, Parrot goes a little better than Rosa.
Yes.
Tyler, last word, brother.
Thanks for having me on, and hopefully I actually find the time to try Parrot in the next week.
All right. Scott, you there? All right, we'll come back to Scott. Paul, last word.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I always learn something every time I watch these, and I've already downloaded the 3.8 gigabit one. The what is that one called? The
virtual.
Virtual. So I got to run it in a virtual box. So
No, I don't think you do. Do you? You don't have to run it in a virtual
downloaded the wrong.
No, there's two Martes. One says that it's a virtual one, VirtualBox one.
Oh, well then, I guess that depends on how you're going to use it, Paul. If
Oh,
you're going to put it in a virtual box.
Well,
If it's
I'll
a
have to play with
prefab virtual image.
All right, thanks.
All right. Nate, last word.
Hey, thanks, Get, for having me. I'm surprised I haven't been banned yet. I thought Rosa was great. You know, even though I stand alone on that one, it's an unpopular opinion, but hey, that's
Now
okay.
he's banning
you. That's all right. I wouldn't be the first time. All right, thanks.
Shambles, last word, brother.
For having me on this week. I just have to say that wireless headset is an amazing thing. I got to go upstairs and make a sandwich, and I could still chat with you guys. If I
Nice.
That's awesome. I love it. Dave, last word.
Rosa, OpenSUSE, same. Thank you, Rocco. Thank you, Zeb. Like that smash button, and everybody throw in a quarter to get Zeb over here to the States.
Yes, I agree.
Thank you.
JJ.
So thanks for having me on here. Even though I don't really test the distros often, I'm only an occasional guest. I really do appreciate having a space to talk about open source and Linux to a lot of people around the world, literally. And you guys know where to find me. And I'm also messing around with Mastodon as the Discord server that I moderate is actually partnering with mobile.co Mastodon in order to provide a platform for those who are disaffected Twitter users from what the recent bans have been happening. So if you're not turned off by that, I encourage you to come over and check us out. It's mobile.co, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. Ryan, last word.
Definitely donate if you can to bring Zeb to America. He's the only one that can humble Michael, and we have to have it done in person. So please do that.
I don't think that's possible.
Oh, we're going to find out what a baton can do. Thank you for having me on, Rocco. I was just thinking while we were doing this is an OG crew of Destination Linux right here. You have Rocco, Michael, Zeb, and myself on here. That's pretty awesome. So,
yep, it is. Chris, last word, brother.
I don't think they'll let me through. That somehow.
That's all right, Zeb. We can supply the batons here. Okay.
No, that's not necessary.
Yeah. And if you prefer swords, I've got them.
Chop his hair off. That'll humble him.
Okay.
Okay, just want to say that not a sponsor, but best ginger ale ever. And,
all right.
And thanks for having this forum, and I guess we'll venture on from here.
There you go. Well, you're welcome back next week, brother.
If I remember to set the timer, yeah.
There you go. Prophetic, last word, brother.
Oh wow. Thanks, Mike, for helping out my kids.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Might be a weekly thing. I'll be coming on your show asking you for to help out.
That's fine with me.
Maybe it might be my wife next. Like, tell my wife to lay off on. Thanks, Rocco, for
you're gonna get in trouble
together. Yeah, no, right? She was like, "No, who is that guy?" Turned it off. Yeah, thanks for putting the show on, and get Zeb to America.
Yeah, Michael. I know that it's going to be hard, but it's a last word.
Oh.
That was it. Oh.
So this week in Linux coming out tomorrow morning. I'll actually be on time with it because it's already done, edited, and rendered. It's uploading now. I might be joining the flock and trying out Parrot OS because I don't think it'll be foul. In fact, it'll be a hoot.
Ban him, Rocco. Ban him.
Pile in on that.
Where's
Bada boom.
Wow.
He knows how to spell it.
Joe, I know you just got here, but last word, brother.
Well, thanks for letting me in for the last 10 minutes here. I had family obligation. I got bit by the distro hopper bug. I'm on peppermint and it's going bye-bye after we get off.
Oh, wait.
What? That baton's coming out, dude.
Just like the shirt
You're up, son.
It's a Panico thing. You wouldn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, no, I've been through a little distro hell this week. I thought it'd be a good idea to wipe out my mate and put my next love in there. And Zeb knows a little bit what's going on because I messaged him today, and I don't like having to hit, F1 or F2 and then F7 to get my desktop to come back up, and then Blender won't load. And then I've got it's like, I don't know what's going on with this machine, but I'm having a Rocco moment this week with nothing wants to work on it. So I need I will be changing distros. As much as I'm tempted to go back on Mate, I feel like the desperate need for distro hopperitis to try something completely.
Well, there you go.
It's something I was on before.
OpenSUSE.
Parrot OS Mate.
No, I don't think so. Something that I know a little bit about, maybe, but I don't know. Anyway, that's it. But thanks for letting me on.
Ubuntu.
And hello.
Trucker OS.
All right, Chicken, last word.
Just like to say that Zeb's reaction was amazing.
Yeah.
It was.
It pains me too. I love that.
But thank you, as always, for having me on. And thank you to all of you guys on the stream who are in here participating with all of us, and the people watching in the chat, in the Telegram group. Like, this is awesome. There's so many people jumping in, taking part, and I love it.
Yep. Scott, going back to you for the last word.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. I had to step out for a minute, youngin' and whatnot. Great show as always, Rocco. And Rocco and Zeb, if you guys want to throw a plug in for the Discord, I think everybody'd be happy to come on over to Discord during the week and have chats and whatnot in between episodes.
BigDailyLinks.com/Discord.
There you go. Like a true champ. Come on over, everybody. Always a great show, and always glad to have everybody in the YouTube chat and on the show. And looking forward to trying out. What were we trying out?
Parrot OS.
That's the one.
All right. So thank you to each and every one of you guys for showing up, because without you, there would be no conversation. So I really appreciate it. And I do want to reiterate, JJ, you had said about you're not trying out the distro. You don't ever have to apologize for not trying out the distro. And that is not a requirement for coming on and talking with us. So I noticed last week, a couple people had said, well, I'm not trying the distro out this week, so I didn't really feel like coming on. But it's not about trying out a distro. The distro challenge is just an extra added feature to talk about. We talk about whatever we can with Linux. So you want to talk about Linux, you're more than welcome to join the Zoom chat and join us, and we'll have a good time.
Yeah, I'm a great example of not trying out stuff.
Oh.
Well,
what, like your life?
Not me. All right. So Parrot OS is next. And thank you for all showing up. We will see you next week.
Fill your brains.
See you next week, everybody.
Star puppy.
Bye.
Peace.
Later.
For life.
Zeb knows what's up. All right, we got this, Zeb.